think it's really important for the nurses to make sure they're getting the supervisions as well, and the support for their own mental health. Because you can't look after yourself, how can you look after a baby? Or that's the old saying, the oxygen mask when it comes down, who do you put on, yourself or baby in the airplane? So if it's one way important, you have to, as nurses, you got to look after yourself first, because how can you look after anyone? The same as family. That's what I say to dads. If you look after yourself, then you can look after the baby better, and have that read, sing, play, which is so important in a baby's life as well. So it's important to have a supervision. Make sure you look after yourself as nurses, and look at the resources for you if you're struggling as well as nurses. Have a look at the resources and get that early prevention help. Don't worry what other people think. That's what I used to do. And once you stop worrying what people think, and you're doing the best you can, that's all that matters, really.
Well, I think that's a really good point to make. Yeah, you can't serve from a bucket with leaky holes in it. So, I
like that one.
It ends up overflowing and falling out. So you've got to patch it up, haven't you? And I think there's so much stigma around there about anybody that's a healthcare professional that they can't have mental health problems or seek advice, but they can, and we're all normal people, and we all have the same issues. Where healthcare professionals do not live a golden life. They have the same struggles as everybody else. So I think it's a good point that you've made, Mark. So I was thinking, we're kind of out of questions now, but I think it would really be beneficial for you to give a bit more of your background, as in a bit more of your story. I don't know whether you'd have time to do your little slides for us.
Can I put the slides up here?
Yeah, if you want to do it, and then if we have any more questions after that, but I think it would be really good now that we've got some of those questions out of the way. I think it'd be good for you to tell your story. So
sure. I think I can put my slides up here
somewhere.
The
slides. So if you do it as a slideshow, I'll be able to see it. Great. Yeah.
Oh, you can see that?
So if you pop it back to presenter view, that's great. And then we're still recording, and I'm just going to get my charger so that my laptop doesn't die, but you can start.
You start, yeah. So, like I mentioned, my name's Mark Williams, founder of International Father's Mental Health Day, now with Dr. Daniel Singley in America. So I was a father, an author, now working with Dr. Jane Hanley for the last 10 years, probably now. And obviously with the work we've done, obviously working with parents, dads, I put all this evidence, and then Jane does all the hard work. And then we reference it all up in Nursing Times and all sorts of things over the years. So, obviously written a book on the memoir. It's actually in China. I just had an email this morning. It's in China now. And that's going to be turned into a film now on Amazon Prime called Daddy Blues, and it's on IMDb. So that's, if you can Google that, and hopefully that'll be out soon as well. So it's an independent film. They couldn't get Tom Cruise, unfortunately, because of lockdown. But it's an education film as well, on the father's perspective, really, as well. So a lot of good things that come out of something bad from my own personal experience. I remember, like I said, 22 hours labour. I remember doctors come rushing in, and the first time I actually had a panic attack, and all the attention was on me now, and it should have been on my wife. That's what I was thinking. And then obviously when I witnessed that trauma, well, Michelle went through, obviously had a massive impact on me. And I think even more when my wife went to severe post-depression, where she was in crisis team, give up work, your hospital appointments. You don't know nothing about mental health in 2004. And then you start overthinking as a dad, is it me? Is anything I've done? Why has my wife's got post-depression? Is anything... Does she want this baby? Is it me? Does she want me? So you start overthinking things then, really, because you haven't got that education, or anyone's not engaging with you as well to just reinsure you. So obviously from that time, obviously my personality changed. I remember, all sorts of behaviours, busting the sofa, busting my hand, all sorts of things, and that's very key to look out for. I was totally different person in that postnatal period. And like a lot of fathers, they get thoughts of suicide, like mums, during this time as well. So it could be a range of reasons. When I look back at my own personal experience, was it the undiagnosed ADHD, the lack of sleep, witnessing traumatic birth? Was it my wife going for severe post-depression, crisis team? Isolation? Was it the fact that I couldn't work? There was money worries. the thoughts and feelings that mums get with postnatal depression. Was it the bond and to get this overwhelming feeling love for my son, or feeling guilt? All these things and things happen in the postnatal period as well. And the stigma, I can imagine back then, obviously, nobody's really talking about it like they are today as well. So something good came out of something bad. I changed my career in 2006. I wasn't the same person going back into sales. I couldn't take the pressures anymore. So those skills transferred when I went into mental health or youth service. Unfortunately, there was a lot of young suicides in 2007. And I started going on suicide assist courses, mental health courses. And I started really enjoying learning about mental health in general. And then I started going into career working in mental health services then as well. But it wasn't until basically my mother unfortunately had diagnosed with cancer. She's fine. Lost my grandfather, dementia I was looking after. But what happened, because I hadn't dealt with everything in my life, it came to head end in 2010. I was put in community mental health teams, and then I was very unwell. Never made a plan to take my life, but I was very unwell. I was on my way, I'll be honest with you, to that path. And I think looking back, that early prevention, I wish I really took, really, because like I said, I was on medication. I learned all these positive coping skills, proper therapy. I learned about CBT, mindfulness, all these positive coping skills, which I still use today as well. And like I said, I still struggle with mental health now. I'm not fixed, but I'm certainly not the same person that I was 11 years ago, 12 years ago. It's like a totally different person where I am now. So speaking of a guy in the gym, 5-minute conversation, I said, can I bother weights? And he said, I got to go to NHS Prams. And he said, what's NHS Prams? I said, I'm working in a hospital in Cardiff. He said, my wife's got postnatal depression. I said, no way. I said, my wife had postnatal depression too. So we had a conversation, which I hadn't had with nobody else. And I set up a group called Father Reaching Out. So from that time, we started raising awareness. I did, going on TV, radio stations in UK. Around even yesterday, did a talk in Zimbabwe as well. Because this is not just a UK concern; it's a global concern. This is a global concern of fathers not getting screened and supported for their mental health. He met Will, or I can call him Will now. It's the Duke of Cambridge, and we had a conversation obviously around fatherhood as well. So why dads matter? So 1 in 10 dads suffer from postnatal depression. And up to 50% of dads will experience depression or can experience depression looking after their partners with postnatal depression. And anxiety is even higher, of course, as we know, in dads and depression. So these are some of the reports. 62% of dads felt their mental health difficulties did get in the way of forging good connections with their children. Young dads, we don't talk about much. 39% of young dads want this support for their mental health. 34% are not with their child full time. 1 in 5 British fathers lost total connections with their close friends, and nearly half of British fathers struggle with the lack of social intervention during COVID as well. The November, I've done a good report out recently as well on social connections, which I definitely recommend have a look at. NCT, 38% of new dads were concerned about their own mental health, and 73% were concerned about their partners. So this is International Father's Mental Health Day, which is June the 21st, today, if it's recorded for today. So we've got doctors from around the world now, and we've got a lot of people like NHS trusts are really getting involved with this day as well. So it's a day where we raise awareness, share education, and to say that why we should be including fathers. We should be talking about this every day, but it's a certain day where it's always a day after Father's Day in the UK. We get a handwheel model. Me and Jane did a handwheel model where we got some sort of pathway care, which we're hoping to release more soon as well. So we need some proper pathways in place so that dads can get that support in place as well. The report I can send over to you as well. It's actually on the Maternal Mental Health Alliance, Dad's Resources, and on their page. And you can Google it as well. It's on a lot of resources pages now. And it's 10 years document, recommendations, resources, and things that I've done over since COVID. I'm the only one who's actually got my form upside down, or booklet, I should say. So, but in the background, you can see Julian obviously does some amazing work with Dad's Pad. You got Ashley as a new dad, the intrusive thoughts. He talks about paternal OCD. Helen, who sadly lost her partner through suicide when she had wonderful support, and her partner was never asked about his mental health. Dan Rowe went for post-depression as long as with James. Dan Rowe, we got a podcast called How Are You Dad, which is coming out on International Father's Mental Health Day this year as well. So it's only 5 episodes, limited series, and it gives you a good insight why we should be screening and why dads matter as well. So working with a lot of academics, we published the NHS Good Practice Guide as well. You can probably see why my brain works, the ADHD brain compared to the academics. Wonderful doctors. And you can Google that as well. It's the NHS Good Practice Guide as well for partners in specialist perinatal mental health services as well. So from my own personal experience, a lot of good have come out of something bad, I should say, as well. And if there's anything I can share with you, if I can write the journal, or if I can do this, why can't you as nurses, children nurses, anyone to write an article? Why not? If I can do it. So if I can inspire you to do it, if I can do it, why can't you do a keynote talk? Why can't I do this? Do it. Because we all got our own education, as you say, in our own way. We all can bring something to the table. So I hope you did. I hope you enjoyed our whistle stop tour.
I know it's been absolutely great. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it, actually, something different. Because I wouldn't expect some of the questions. I should, which is great. Got me thinking, and gosh, I never thought that, because, like I said, I'm still learning off the dads now as well. I still learn off the parents. Yeah. Even a father this morning, I spoke to as well. A health professional, I should say. So yeah, I'm always learning.
Yeah, so I was thinking, could you come up with like the best 3 tips that we could give our children's nurses if they didn't take anything else away today from everything that we've talked about? What are the 3 key things? Yeah,
for the nurses.
The 3 key things
for the nurses themselves. Or
yeah.
To engage dads. First 3 tips off my mind. Yeah. Basically engage dad in any way possible. If he's in work, if he's in, by letter, any email or Zoom, anything, engage dad somewhere along that line. That's one thing. You will always remember that. And you'll, if we can all do that, we'll have a massive shift. I think the second one would be basically give him have a look what's in the area, resources, something tangible, perhaps, Why your dad, something engaged, Dad's Pad. We got loads of things we can offer dads. Like I said, Best Beginnings, that could be a resource. It's apps. You got Dad's AF. So build up your knowledge when you are engaging dad. You'll feel more confident then, and you think, oh yeah, dad. Okay, I got something to give him to address that need as well. And thirdly, I would say. I think show empathy and understanding as well. That dads can experience anxiety and depression for various reasons. I think and educate yourself as much as you can about mental health as well. But yeah, have empathy and understanding, and just listen to him. That's all dads sometimes needs, just somebody to have a conversation with, and reassure him.
Great. I did have one more question, which is probably a little bit of a kind of maybe should have asked it earlier, but thinking about a dad that maybe they've had a couple of miscarriages and they're questioning whether they are truly a dad or a father, and whether they might ever get there. And we know sadly some people just don't manage to, and obviously that can be quite traumatic. What would you say to them? Because in my opinion, they're a dad, hands down. Just because they didn't manage to hold their baby doesn't mean that the baby isn't real.
Absolutely.
And how do we support them? Because we might not encounter them, but we also have followers that are not children's nurses, so we do have some that are adult nurses or mental health nurses that follow us as well. So we might not encounter them as children's nurses because they might never, unfortunately, get to a point even where they would engage with us. But what could we do for those followers that we have? How what would you advise them for a dad that might be struggling with that, but we don't know because they don't have?
But yeah, same, and that goes the same as mums as well. You know,
Yeah.
pet, services as well. Sands UK, I think, is a wonderful charity. Sands UK, I would definitely recommend you look at that. And also, there's a wonderful page by a gentleman up in Newcastle called Miscarriages for Men as well. So, but Sands UK, they got dads football groups and all sorts of things. Dads who've gone through experiences that we just talked about as well. So yeah, that's definitely a good resource. I would definitely Sands UK as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's
I enjoyed it.
Lovely chatting to you, Mark. And
No,
definitely...
Becky, I tell you, like I said, you know, it's education there. So hopefully a lot of the nurses will have a better understanding now as well. So
I think it'll be definitely really helpful. So
Thank
much
you.
for talking
and there's more as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
No worries. Take care.
Bye.